covering the world of professional wrestling. This is the Signature Spot with Chris Toplack.
3, 2, 1.
Thank you very much for tuning into the latest episode of The Signature Spot with Chris Toplack. As always, I greatly appreciate your ongoing support. I certainly hope that you are warm and cozy at the moment. Up here in the Great White North, we've seen weather conditions all week. It's been a rough drive to work and back. I've gone inside a store. 5 minutes later, I come back out, forced to wipe off the car. Yet again, just one of those weeks, and you would think that I am sipping on a nice hot chocolate, but instead it is an ice cold steam whistle. They call it Canada's Premium Pilsner. It's a damn fine choice. So again, hopefully you're wrapped up in a blanket listening to this latest episode. Before we go any further, I want to acknowledge the loss of WWE Hall of Famer Pedro Morales. He was a trailblazer. He passed away at age 76. He was the first Latino World Heavyweight Champion, so he kicked down a lot of doors. And you can think that many after him had to have been inspired by that reign. He held the WWF Heavyweight Championship for an absolutely incredible 1,027 days. Only Bruno Sammartino and Hulk Hogan held it longer for a single reign. And beyond that, for a combined reign, only Bob Backlund and Cena surpass him along with Bruno and Hulk Hogan. So he's number 5, and that's only one reign. And often overlooked was the fact that Pedro Morales was the very first WWF Triple Crown champion. So he was a tag team champion with Bob Backlund, Intercontinental champion, and as I noted, a WWF champion. He was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame back in 1995. As Kyle notes later on, he did not actually attended the ceremony because he was doing some play-by-play for WCW. I believe he was a Spanish announcer at the time, so he did not want to jeopardize his spot with WCW, so he did not attend the Hall of Fame back in 95 for the induction ceremony, even though it was not much of a luxurious, lavish ceremony like they have now. Bret Hart, I believe, summarized his loss the best, which I believe, for the record, has gone very understated. I've looked on Twitter and other social media outlets. I haven't seen a ton of wrestlers talking about this loss. And again, for such a trailblazer, an incredible babyface, and just an overall, great human being, I was really disappointed by that. But Bret summarizes his loss very well. Goodbye to a great friend, one of the kindest, wisest wrestlers I ever knew. When I first started in WWE, he told me, "You can't stop talent." I followed those words for the rest of my career. R.I.P. Pedro Morales. Go back and watch his matches at Boston Garden. He was so incredibly over as a babyface. I know throughout the weekend I'm going to go back and watch some matches from the late great Pedro Morales. On the program today, a New Japan Pro Wrestling Heavyweight Champion that you may or may not expect. Double or nothing news, and it's great news. AEW's rumored schedule, highlights from the week, some lowlights from the week, Raw, cough, cough, and some predictions for the Elimination Chamber as I'm joined by my guest, Kyle Scarf.
Your weekly recap.
New Japan Pro Wrestling New Beginning became a newsworthy event after Switchblade Jay White defeated Tanahashi. The finish came after White countered the High Fly Flow into the Blade Runner to become the new IWGP Heavyweight Champion. Tanahashi previously dethroned Kenny Omega at Wrestle Kingdom 13 to become the new IWGP Heavyweight Champion for a record 8th time. Now, some feel that this flag bearer status for Jay White holding the Heavyweight Championship is a bit of a premature move. I'm saying give it time and let's see how it plays out. I'm not going to be sour on it quite yet. Give it time. I think that there's plenty of potential here. Over to Raw, the show opened with Stephanie McMahon and Triple H selling the upcoming Elimination Chamber card, and they also introduced Becky Lynch following a recap video. Now, Triple H and Stephanie wanted to put their differences aside, apologize, and even noted that based on the doctor's opinion, Becky Lynch is cleared to compete at WrestleMania. Her suspension was revoked. All that they asked for was an apology, to which Becky Lynch replied with, "Take your apology and shove it up your arse." An ultimatum was made that either Becky apologizes or will be officially pulled from the match. TBD, we'll see what happens. Sasha Banks and Bayley versus Nia Jax, Tamina versus Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan. The team who got pinned would be forced to kick off the Elimination Chamber match on the Raw side. Now, the real story of this match was the fact that Sasha was escorted to the back by trainers and referees very early on. This put Bayley at a complete disadvantage. Nia Jax ended up pinning Bayley following a Samoan drop. So Banks and Bayley will now enter the structure first. So this angle will go either one or two ways. So despite injuries, the Boss and Hug connection will manage to overcome the odds, or, maybe something happens with Sasha turning on Bayley, because now we know that Sasha has been cleared. She will be able to compete this Sunday. So will it happen? Or perhaps even option C, they come up short and then they win at WrestleMania. Either way, we'll have some predictions later on where Kyle and I will tell you who we feel will win the Elimination Chamber match to become the new women's tag team champions. Elias appeared, but he was immediately interrupted by a backstage promo featuring Becky Lynch and Finn Balor, where the leader of the Balor Club advised that she shouldn't let pride get the best of her. Back to Elias. Lucha House Party now interrupted him to join the festivities, and Elias had the following to say: "When I come to Grand Rapids, I immediately lose my will to live." Now, obviously, Elias needs to be introduced to Founders Brewing Company, Midden Brewing Company, and Hopcat Grand Rapids. I love the city, and it is beer country. A lot of great food and craft breweries there. So obviously, he was in the wrong part of town. And actually, what's ironic is it's the right part of town because there's so much going on there. Either way, Kalisto grabbed the guitar, played a few very simple notes. Even I think I could have done that. It earned him a cheap little golf clap. Elias thanked him for his contribution with a guitar to the back, which I actually laughed at. And then he hopped out of the ring, ran to the back with his kimono. So it looked ridiculous. But I'm really enjoying the Elias character. Far better as a heel, actually. Next, we had Finn Balor versus Drew McIntyre with Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush just basically hanging out at ringside. Drew and Bobby attacked Finn until Kurt Angle made the save. Corbin showed up, and then Strowman also made an appearance. This led to a six-man tag match. The conclusion saw Strowman land a running power slam on Lashley, following the coup de grace for the victory, with Finn Balor getting the 1-2-3. Then we had a really weird promo from Kevin Owens. It aired from a bowling alley. The promo discussed the fact he's been spending a lot of time with his family and how difficult it's been watching Raw and SmackDown due to the fact that he's watching others do what he does best. He also doesn't know if he's going to return to Raw or SmackDown, because it's not just going to be Raw. It could be one show or the other. And his return is also about 1 month out. So this promo really had him come off as a babyface, so I'm genuinely intrigued to see where they go from here. Then we had Ruby Riott versus Nikki Cross. A promo between Becky and Ronda was shown on a split screen, and it was eventually cut. It went to the full promo, and Ronda was advising that it's time for Becky to man up and apologize, even if she doesn't mean it, and if not, she's just too big of a coward to face her at WrestleMania. Back to the match. Cross lost. She was defeated due to the Riott kick. Seth Rollins came out. He cut a promo on the basis that he's still standing after 6 F5s, but boys, he feeling it. This brought out the promo wizard, Mr. Paul Heyman, ladies and gentlemen. So Paul Heyman mentioned that Seth will be the architect of his own demise. Now, Seth Rollins had a rebuttal that basically comprised of the fact that he will sacrifice everything to defeat Brock Lesnar. Once the promo concluded, Dean Ambrose made his way down to the ring in preparation for his match. As he entered the ring, he simply said the following to Seth Rollins: "I only have one thing to say. Slay the beast." That was it. Bit of a strange, what felt like almost an unscripted moment between the two, but I really enjoyed it. This led to Dean Ambrose versus EC3 for another week, with Ambrose picking up the win in just under 4 minutes. Again, not enough time to tell a compelling story. I don't know what they're doing with those two. The Revival, in match of the night, finally captured the Raw Tag Team Championships, defeating Bobby Roode and Chad Gable. Great match. The crowd was relatively silent for it, though, so that was unfortunate. And then to wrap up the show, Triple H, Stephanie, and Becky all reconvened in the ring. Becky eventually apologized, and she was granted her match with Ronda. But wait, not so fast. Vince McMahon appeared on stage. You've got no chance in hell, and noted that he doesn't forgive Becky and that she thinks she's bigger than the WWE. Vince further stated that he's the man, not Becky Lynch. Vince then went on to suspend Becky for 60 days, and he also noted that would actually take it beyond WrestleMania. So now she's forced out of the match with Ronda and needs a replacement. The chairman of the board introduced Charlotte Flair. And man, there were thunderous boos. It's actually the most disliked video in the history of WWE's YouTube channel. And he noted that Charlotte Flair would become the new Raw Women's Champion at WrestleMania. So Vince McMahon weeks ago, we're going to give you what you want. And then Vince McMahon on Monday, just kidding, you're getting Charlotte whether you like it or not. So yes, we're either getting a triple threat between Ronda, Charlotte, and Becky at WrestleMania, or Becky will earn her spot back in the match, and then Charlotte will take on Asuka at WrestleMania instead, which I'm hoping the latter situation occurs. On SmackDown, the show opened by recapping the conclusion of Raw. This led to Charlotte kicking off the show with a promo, and as expected, the heat was deafening at times. Charlotte noted that main eventing WrestleMania was her destiny, and she arrogantly pointed at the sign. She also dedicated her WrestleMania victory to her best friend, Becky Lynch, and mentioned that she will be sitting front row for Ronda's match against Ruby Riott this coming Sunday at the Elimination Chamber. One thing is for sure, Charlotte Flair should never play a babyface again. She excels and does her best work as an arrogant and egomaniacal villain. She's just doing so great in the role. Then we had Fire and Desire, which is the team of Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville taking on the Iconics, along with Carmella and Naomi. So a triple threat tag team match. This match was far better than the match from last week. Naomi pinned Mandy Rose with the split-legged moonsault, which means the team of Rose and Deville will be forced to compete first on the SmackDown side. So we have Rose and Deville taking on Sasha Banks and Bayley to kick off that Elimination Chamber match. Next up, we were treated or forced to watch McMiz TV. Depends on your preference. I did not really enjoy it. I found it a very hokey segment that was salvaged by the Usos. They landed perfectly placed super kicks, well-timed, on Shane and The Miz to put an exclamation mark on the segment. The Usos possess a swagger and just a general sense of cool that few can replicate. In the gauntlet match, it was announced that due to injuries, Mustafa Ali will be forced to withdraw. A replacement was required. So the New Day's Kofi Kingston stepped up, and boy, did he step up. Tuesday's edition of SmackDown Live was, make no mistake about it, the Kofi Kingston show. He pinned Daniel Bryan, Jeff Hardy, and Samoa Joe before succumbing to AJ Styles in the calf crusher. Kofi spent just under 1 hour in 4 back-to-back matches with separate opponents. One of the single greatest performances in SmackDown history. Kofi Kingston has quietly put together a Hall of Fame-worthy career, quite the resume, and it'd be great to see him compete in the main event picture more frequently, especially prior to him hanging up the boots. I don't see that occurring anytime soon, but let's make sure that he really has one final great run. Then Randy Orton hit an RKO out of nowhere to pin AJ Styles, and the show quickly went off the air. Based almost entirely on Kofi Kingston's performance, SmackDown was the far superior show over Raw this week. I had an opportunity to get caught up on 205 Live and NXT this week prior to the show airing. Tony Nese versus Noam Dar from 205 Live was an incredible hardcore match, at least within the confines of the WWE. Very back and forth. Tony Nese ultimately got the victory. Noam Dar did not lose anything in defeat. And then, of course, we had NXT with the big match being Ricochet versus Adam Cole. Baby. So Ricochet actually defeated Adam Cole in just under 15 minutes. And right on cue, the Undisputed Era intervened following the loss, and they proceeded to beat down Ricochet. Aleister Black attempted to even the odds, but they were at the disadvantage. Of course, the Undisputed Era always has the numbers advantage, so it was a great match, an excellent story, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes further.
The latest industry news and rumors.
AEW Double or Nothing will take place on May the 25th at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas. Earlier in the week, there was a pre-sale for the event, and tickets sold out in 25 minutes. The remaining tickets were released on Wednesday, and the general sales sold out in a mere 4 minutes. That is 14,000 seats in total, roughly around that, in less than 30 minutes. Absolutely unbelievable. The card is quickly coming together, and there is a lot to be excited about. I wanted to go. I really did, but I knew the tickets would go so quickly. I found myself relatively busy throughout the day. I just never had the opportunity to get tickets. I'm kind of kicking myself at the moment. StarCast 2 is also taking place. The pre-sale started on Tuesday. The general sale will continue tomorrow. That is Friday, February the 15th at noon. It's taking place from May the 23rd to the 26th in Las Vegas. You can stop by StarCastWith2Rs.com to see all of the individuals who will be attending. Cody Rhodes, the Jacksons, Brandy Rhodes, Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho, SCU, Jimmy Havoc, Sting, Bret Hart, Jim Ross, Eric Bischoff, Bruce Pritchard, Lita, Jerry Lawler, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. You have Barry Windham, Tully Blanchard, J.J. Dillon, Arn Anderson. So you have a lot of the Four Horsemen there. Magnum T.A., Tommy Dreamer. There are Bill Apter. There's a ton of great talent that are going to be there. So if you are attending the show for Double or Nothing, certainly you'll be attending StarCast 2 as well. Quite the stacked lineup. Now, AEW may actually have their schedule released. In a report courtesy of WrestleTalk, they revealed the schedule for All Elite Wrestling. Again, this could be pure speculation, but it seems to add up. So May 25th, of course, they have Double or Nothing at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas. In June, it's an unspecified show, believed to be in the U.S. In July, it's an unnamed show in Jacksonville, Florida, with a portion of the proceeds going to anti-gun crime charities. August, Royal Albert Hall in London, England. That's going to be a hell of a show. September, All Out, the official sequel to All In, with the full launch of the brand prior to TV tapings beginning. Now, again, not all of this is confirmed, but this could be taking place at the Sears Center in Chicago. And then as of October, weekly television will begin. So if this is true, there's a lot to look forward to over the next 6 months. Speaking of which, the Jericho Cruise Part 2 will be taking place. That's right, Chris Jericho's Rock and Wrestling Rager at Sea Part 2 has partnered with AEW, and they will bring back the greatest wrestling tournament to ever sail. You can actually join the pre-sale now if you stop by ChrisJerichoCruise.com. According to Super J-Cast, they are reporting that Kota Ibushi has signed a 2-year deal with New Japan Pro Wrestling. For the future of the promotion, this was necessary because Kota Ibushi is widely considered to be one of their flag bearers. Up next, I'm joined by writer and frequent contributor to the show, Kyle Scarf, as we discuss the Elimination Chamber this coming Sunday.
Our topic of the week.
The Elimination Chamber takes place this coming Sunday, February the 17th, from the Toyota Center in Houston, Texas. Kickoff show at 6 p.m. in the East. The main card starts 1 hour later, 7 p.m. in the East. I love the fact that this is not a very convoluted card, only 7 matches in total, Kyle. And of course, very unfortunately, the match that is kicking off the show, the pre-show that is the Cruiserweight Championship yet again.
They really deserve to be on the main roster at this point. Like after the showing Buddy Murphy and was it Cedric at Survivor Series?
I think so.
Yeah, and they got that chance on the main card, and they blew pretty much everything else out of the water. And the run that Buddy Murphy's had as Cruiserweight Champion, I know a lot of people when he came up from NXT were like, I don't know how he's going to fit into this role, but he has absolutely been on fire.
Looks like $1 million too. I just watched the latest episode of 205 Live, and he is jacked. Like, he is so muscular for 205 pounds. I don't know if that's a shoot or not.
I I'm iffy on it. It takes me back to the time when Matt Hardy, version 1, was the Cruiserweight champion back in around 03 in the WrestleMania 19 era, fighting like Billy Kidman and Rey Mysterio.
Mm-hmm.
But he having to cut weight to be at that, I think it was 215 or 220 at that time.
Yeah.
But Buddy Murphy, like calling himself the Juggernaut and just being like obviously the most jacked guy, I love it.
And he goes up against Akira Tozawa, who is a former champion in his own right, and he's also very legitimate.
Yes. If anyone here hasn't gone back on the network and watched the Cruiserweight Classic, I implore you to do so. Akira Tozawa was one of the absolute highlights of that tournament. I became a fan immediately. I still think he probably has the best German suplex. The snap German suplex that he does puts Suplex City to shame.
And that senton off the top rope is phenomenal too.
Oh, beautiful. It's a thing of beauty. For this match, I don't see Murphy dropping the strap before WrestleMania at this point.
Same.
As much as I love Tozawa, as you just heard, he isn't the guy to do that dethroning. Sadly, being on the pre-show where no one sees it, I still expect a strong showing out of both men.
Yeah, I have Buddy Murphy retaining. I do believe he's going to drop it on the grandest stage of them all. It's not going to be at the Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, and hopefully not on the pre-show there, but let's be honest, it's going to happen.
If there was a show, or if there was a match, rather, that should have been on the pre-show, I would probably vote for this one. It's Braun Strowman versus Baron Corbin, what feels like the 17th time the former interim general manager of Raw purposely made Braun Strowman's life a living hell. So this could lead to one of the worst beatdowns to date. Somebody's going to get these hands, so to speak.
Oh, absolutely. At this point, does anyone really care about either of those guys? I cannot recall a time that WWE had such an organically over character as Braun and then butchered it at every opportunity. That said, Braun's going to win. He's going to destroy Corbin.
Of course. Unless Drew McIntyre gets involved, though.
Possibly. And that's what I was thinking is Corbin's probably going to get destroyed, come out on Raw for 2 or 3 different segments because he seems to be all over that show every week. Drag McIntyre into it, leading to probably a tag match at Fastlane that involves, Braun and Kurt Angle versus McIntyre and Corbin, which I think is going to lead to that. There's rumors of a grudge match between Kurt Angle and Drew McIntyre, which will be Kurt Angle's final match
at WrestleMania.
Gotcha. And honestly, if there's a guy I want to see Kurt put over, it's Drew McIntyre, because he's been continually put over as this force of nature, one of the strongest characters on the show, yet still seems to lose at every turn.
I see him as a guy that he gets to a certain point and then he just can't get past it, right? There's a certain hurdle there. He's eventually going
his legs out.
Yeah, and he has to get to that main event sooner rather than later at some point. And getting through Kurt Angle at WrestleMania would put him on the right path, that's for sure.
And Kurt seems like the kind of guy that respects the business enough to know I'm on my way out. I need to put over the next generation.
Of course.
And Drew McIntyre, if anyone on the roster at this point, is a guy who needs to be put over to show that he can go to that main event level, it's Drew McIntyre.
Makes sense to me. So obviously we both agree that Braun Strowman will get his arm raised. Intercontinental Championship, it's a handicap match. It's Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush. I'm sure he'll show up with a microphone in his hand, taking on the leader of the Balor Club, Finn Balor.
Sadly, I see another loss in Finn's future here. We're not going to get the Demon, obviously. I think they're saving that at this point for WrestleMania. I see WWE so set on making Lashley a thing, even though they've kind of botched it. He's been back for a year. And seemingly, if you think about it, look at it, what has he done? Like, he's the Intercontinental Champion right now, yes. But he kind of won that in a way to get the title out of that Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose feud at the time.
Correct.
And so I see something shifty happening with Lio Rush that leads to Lashley getting the pinfall.
via the spear. So I have Lashley retaining. I believe the Balor will get a rematch perhaps at WrestleMania, though, and claim that Intercontinental Championship.
With the Demon.
Yes.
Yeah.
SmackDown Tag Team Championship match. It's The Miz and Shane McMahon versus the Usos. Now, following their victory in a fatal four-way elimination match, it was the Usos that earned this championship opportunity to further prove that they are the best tag team in the world. And based on their promo during SmackDown Live, the Usos are ready to carry the torch again. Those two are the epitome of cool in my eyes.
Oh my God. I have never turned around on a team I can think of in recent history so much as the Usos when they turned to that more, the Uso penitentiary. The Usos should win this match. There's no doubt, there should be no doubt in anyone's mind.
But they won't.
But they're not going to. But if anyone's going to pull a great match out of Shane McMahon at this point, Jimmy and Jay are those guys.
They are. And I see it the same way. I see The Miz and Shane McMahon retaining at least until WrestleMania, and it's the wrong team going over, by the way.
I see it a little bit differently. I see them retaining here, leading to The Miz heel turn. They kind of buried a little bit of the seeds on SmackDown in that promo on McMiz TV. I see Miz turning on Shane, or maybe even Shane turning on Miz.
I'd rather see something like that, to be honest, because I think The Miz is doing actually an exceptional job of being a babyface at the moment.
He has been great as a babyface.
Because he knows how to act. That's the thing, is that he knows how to act. He has the chops.
He can do anything. The Miz, again, is one of those guys who I've turned around completely on over the course of his career. But I see them leading something into maybe some kind of shifty win here.
Mm-hmm.
I hope there's not too many shifty wins on this card, but I foresee it happening because they need to lead everything into Fastlane.
Yeah.
And then Fastlane's going to lay more of the groundwork for WrestleMania. And that's where I think either Miz or Shane's going to go heel on the other, leading into a match between the two at WrestleMania.
Sure. Even though that's a shame because, those tag team championships, they need the spotlight. And if they're going to have that spotlight, the Bar, the Usos, they should be involved at the very least.
Yeah, I'd love to see come WrestleMania, the Bar, the Usos, and maybe the New Day in a triple threat. Give them, WrestleMania is 25 hours long nowadays. Give them 40 minutes.
Sure.
Let them tear the house down.
Let loose. They could open the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Open the show,
Set
not
the
on
pace.
the pre-show. Set the pace for what could potentially be. I've noticed in the past few years, WrestleMania, every other year seems to be a solid show.
Yeah.
And last year's was a little bit of a letdown. It was, again, 18 hours long.
Sure.
So this year's show, I think we're all expecting something great. And a tag match like that would absolutely, set, not to use the statement overly, but the bar for the rest of the show going forward.
Set a phonetic pace as you open WrestleMania. We move ahead to the Raw Women's Championship. It is the baddest woman on the planet, Ronda Rousey, defending her title against Riott, who is flying way under the radar. Very unfortunate there. Basically, up until I think it was Charlotte's promo on SmackDown, the mention of Ruby even winning this match was not even a possibility.
Yeah, I'm glad that Charlotte brought that up. By the way, I'm out of beer, which is unfortunate. Ruby's basically there as a placeholder, so Rousey has something to do that doesn't involve speaking human words, which is probably for the best.
Tell me how you really feel. Jeez.
Yeah. Ruby's going to be able to pull a great match out of Ronda.
Of course. She's a vet.
Ronda is great in the ring. Ruby is a ring general.
She is.
She's going to pull something out that's going to be, watchable. Charlotte's already said she's going to be in the front row. I fully expect her and or Becky to be involved in the finish. Maybe even helping Ronda retain when Ruby could have kept it because they want Ronda at WrestleMania.
Sure. So here's my prediction. So first and foremost, Ronda Rousey will definitely make this a three-peat of the Riott Squad. She ran through Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan just a couple of weeks ago. And Ruby Riott, as I noted, undoubtedly one of the most underappreciated workers on the main roster, male or female. But she's going to make it a competitive match. Ronda Rousey will get her arm raised. I think Charlotte gets involved, leading to Becky appearing as well.
Yeah, I would not disagree with that statement at all. Becky's supposed to be suspended, but if you look back at the times when, say, John Cena was fired after the whole Nexus angle,
sure,
being suspended and or fired means that you could still show up at random.
Sure, and if you're Austin, you could just show up with a beer truck, or you could just pour cement in a Corvette.
Yeah, why the hell not? That seems like a reasonable thing to do.
I'm never going to lend my car to you. Moving ahead to the Women's Tag Team Championship, we have Nia Jackson-Tamina versus the Riott Squad. That's Sarah Logan and Liv Morgan. You have Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville, the Iconics, Sasha Banks and Bayley, Naomi and Carmella. It's an Elimination Chamber match. So I want to explain how this works. So basically, Sasha Banks and Bayley will be representing the Raw side. It's not a team effort here. It's just representing the Raw side. They're starting off. And then Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville will represent Team Blue here. So basically how it works is those two teams will be in the ring at the same time. The other four teams will be in the respective pods together. This could be a very convoluted match. And even though many of them are great workers, they're at a real disadvantage here.
They really are. It's hard. We saw in the past with the Tag Team Championship Elimination Chamber, which we talked about last week, it can be a real mess.
It was a dud. It was undoubtedly a dud.
It was horrible. That said, there's enough good workers. I'd say about if you cut the squads in half, sure, you have enough good workers to pull out a great match.
Yeah.
Everyone is expecting Bayley and Sasha to win. It's been the rumor for months. And despite Vince Russo not working there, there's nothing that WWE loves more than a good swerve, bro.
You keep coming back with the Russo quotes. Like one more, and I might have to ban you for a couple months.
It's just so easy.
It is. It's very easy. So you're right. Sasha Banks and Bayley have basically been the clear-cut underdogs. And now this takes it a step further with the fact that Sasha Banks may have not even been cleared for this Sunday, but just a couple of hours ago, and this is Wednesday here where we're talking about this, she was officially cleared. So very interesting because they were saying on WWE.com that she re-aggravated a shoulder injury during the triple threat tag team match on Raw. That forced her out of the match. Bayley was left to fend for herself, but she is in this match. Now, is that going to be, the excuse for them not winning, or will they overcome the odds despite this injury?
I'm going to say no. If you were to ask me who I think should win and is outside of Sasha and Bayley the most established team,
you're going to say the Iconics, right?
I love the Iconics. Peyton and Billy are a gift from the gods when it comes to entertainment on my wrestling shows.
Sure.
That said, I have a feeling, and I hate this, that Nia and Tamina, who are probably the two worst workers in the match, are going to win.
I mean, they're up there.
WWE doesn't want us to have nice things.
No.
That said, I expect good showings from Naomi, Bayley, Sasha, and maybe even the Iconics, because we've seen in NXT, they do know how to work, even though they haven't been able to show that on the main roster. I see the under the radar delight or star being Sonya Deville.
Interesting.
I've been impressed with her growth as a character and as a wrestler. Yeah. And now I guess she's just been added to the cast of Total Divas.
Interesting.
Which, they're totally doing because she's the first openly gay woman on the roster. Mm-hmm. So they're going to totally play up the whole thing of her and her girlfriend. But I see them giving her a bit of a spotlight, so that's something that's covered on the show. I still see Nia and Tamina walking away with the titles, and then probably Mania will be where they drop the straps to Bayley and Sasha.
That's a great call. I also want to take a moment to applaud the growth of Carmella over the past couple of years, too. I really noted that on SmackDown recently, that just as an overall performer, I finally think it's coming together, and I think we should take a moment to at least recognize that.
Absolutely. Considering she started as like a stylist character.
She was a valet, essentially.
Yeah, she was a valet for
Big Cass and
Enzo, and look who's still standing when you look at everything. And yeah, and I actually kind of like the team of Naomi and Carmella. I liked how on SmackDown they had the joint entrance where she's wearing like that fur coat that glows with Naomi's entrance.
Mm-hmm.
They're coming together as a team. I hope that they kind of don't just split them apart after this Elimination Chamber match just because they can. There's a lot of good that could come out of that, because I think Naomi is a great worker. She's really coming out over the past few years.
One of the best athletes on the roster, male or female.
Absolutely. And I think having Carmella work with her is going to do nothing but good.
Totally agree. Originally, I had the Boss and Hug connection winning this match. With the injury, I don't see them being confident enough to put it on them, just because maybe Sasha's not healthy enough to retain them over the next couple of pay-per-views. So I'm going to throw out the Iconics winning this match. How about that?
I honestly hope that you are 100% right. I'm sticking with Nia and Tamina because they're really pushing them. I honestly, out of all the teams that are in there, Naomi and Carmella don't have a shot.
No.
The Riott squad is cannon fodder.
Sure, they haven't picked up they haven't picked up enough victories to really make this matter, in my opinion.
Yeah, like if you even had a mix of Ruby and Liv or Ruby and Sarah,
maybe
it'd be a completely different ball game. But the team of Liv and Sarah, while good, and again, I think we've talked about this in the past. I loved Sarah Logan on the independent scene as Crazy Mary Dobson. Obviously, anyone who comes to the ring in a Jason mask has my love and support.
Respect, yes.
Yes. But they're starting to click as a team, but they're not quite there yet to be the first ever women's tag champions.
We move ahead to what could be the main event, although it could be that women's tag team match in the chamber, but it is for the WWE Championship, the Planet's Championship. It is Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles versus Randy Orton versus Samoa Joe versus Jeff Hardy versus the now replacing Mustafa Ali, Kofi Kingston. Should call him Mr. SmackDown. So I'm personally gutted that Mustafa Ali will be forced to miss this match, but following that performance on SmackDown Live that saw Kofi pin not only Daniel Bryan, but also Jeff Hardy and Samoa Joe in roughly an hour, Kingston has more than made up for Ali's absence in this match.
Absolutely. I as well agree with you. I am gutted that Mustafa's not in this match. I think he's one of the best talents they have on any roster. NXT, NXT UK, 205 Live, SmackDown Raw, whatever. He is incredible. And that promo that he cut, when he does those cell phone promos, it's one of the few guys on the roster who feels real.
Believable. That's the big thing. That's the big thing why many still go back and they look at the Attitude Era and they reflect on it so fondly, because a lot of those characters were an extension of themselves. And Mustafa Ali is somebody that when he speaks, you believe it. Same with Samoa Joe, another prime example, or Daniel Bryan. But you have a lot of great talent on SmackDown that are just being themselves, turned up to 11, the old Spinal Tap. And
yes,
I think
absolutely.
that Mustafa Ali is a prime example of that. He's going to come back an even bigger babyface than he was before.
Absolutely. I'm calling this right now. He's going to walk out of WrestleMania probably the United States champion.
That's a great call. So who wins this match in your eyes? Because we have some prime contenders here.
Pretty much everyone except Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton, I would be happy with walking out with the title. That said, there's no way they put together that new belt for Daniel Bryan without him carrying it all the way into WrestleMania.
Sure. So
I want to see. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I believe that Daniel Bryan is going to be the new Edge. He's going to be opportunistic. He's going to be clever, smarter than everybody else. Pick his spots, pick his opportunities, and that's going to ultimately win him the match.
Absolutely. And I could see Daniel Bryan starting this match because he's that guy that his whole gimmick is he's
Overcome
the
the
best
odds.
overcome the odds. He's the best damn wrestler in the world, and he's going to outlast each and every one of these guys. I want to see Kofi have another great performance
And
in
he
there. I
will.
can see him having a great run, maybe
Sure.
20, 30 minutes in there. Orton's going to RK someone into oblivion. I'm calling Jeff Hardy on that one.
Yeah.
Because he's the one who can take the loss without it really affecting who he is and what he does. My call for the final two is it's probably going to come down to Styles and Daniel Bryan.
Mm-hmm.
Samoa Joe, unfortunately, is that guy that he's a killer, but they just don't seem to know how to pull the trigger.
Close, but not close enough.
Exactly. Close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades.
So Daniel Bryan
hope-
and AJ being the final two. That seems like a pretty plausible scenario in my eyes, too.
Yeah, which will probably, unfortunately, lead to another match between the two at Fastlane, which I don't really want to see after the Royal Rumble debacle.
Save it for WrestleMania and throw Samoa Joe in the mix, and then you have a perfect triple threat match on the grandest stage of them all.
I've actually heard rumor that apparently one of the Fastlane advertised matches is a triple threat between the three. And I think Joe could bring that out of those two.
Sure.
And basically consider Daniel Bryan as Christopher Daniels.
Of course.
And get a redo 10 years later, or actually, sorry, 14 years later.
Of course.
The Unbreakable triple threat, which we watched. I remember watching it at your house.
Yeah, one of the greatest triple threat matches I've ever seen. I just think that in this case, as much as I want to see this match, I just find it premature. I would rather see it at WrestleMania, where they can really showcase that match and all three talents and really give them enough time to tell a compelling story.
And you know who I'd want to see walk out of WrestleMania with the title?
Samoa Joe.
Absolutely. They need to pull the trigger. He's been so damn good since he came back to NXT. He shook off that TNA rust he had, and has been
lost some weight. He looks good.
He reminds me, if I was to consider myself a wrestler in my own mind, I would be Samoa Joe. That killer instinct. I will destroy you. There's so many different ways I can do it. But they just don't know how to pull the trigger on him since he's come up to the main roster. Every time he almost gets there, he chokes.
Which is ironic because he chokes people out, too.
Yeah, the Coquina Clutch is probably one of the best finishers going today that's not, one of those high-flying like the 054 from Mustafa Ali or anything like that. That said, I am going to call that it's going to come down to Bryan and Styles. I think that Bryan's going to walk out, and that's going to lead us to, if maybe that rumored triple threat at Fastlane or whatever it may lead to. I'd like to see Kofi get in that mix, because if anything, WWE should be looking at that performance on SmackDown and be like, God damn, this guy, we've had him for so long, and we never ever pulled the trigger. He was so close with that Randy Orton thing, and then that whole stupid debacle because he missed his cue. He's so damn good. And I know a lot of people I've read online were always considering Xavier Woods as that underrated worker in the New Day. But Kofi basically came out and was like, oh yeah, let me show you.
Well, I noted it on Twitter, but I believe Kofi has very quietly put together a Hall of Fame career. Like, without a shadow of a doubt, that his accomplishments
100%.
speak for themselves. I mean, when you really look at his resume, it's rather incredible.
It's unbelievable, like, how talented that guy is, and has never had that run.
But there's just one thing missing.
The guy.
Yeah, there's one thing missing, is that World Championship run. I believe at some point in his career, before he hangs up the boots,
he deserves it.
He does. And he also deserves a prolonged main event storyline. And hopefully he will get that sooner rather than later. It's not going to be his time to shine, though. Daniel Bryan will retain the WWE Championship.
Who do you got for the final two, though?
I think it makes sense.
It's difficult.
I think it makes sense to have Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles, and somehow Eric Rowan gets involved. Maybe he'll grab him through the cage, or something will happen where AJ will be at a disadvantage. Daniel Bryan will take advantage of the opportunity.
I got one out of left field.
Okay.
Apparently, Luke Harper's just been cleared.
So Luke Harper could enter the cage, maybe, or the chamber.
Maybe he's under the cell or the bottom of the chamber,
a la
much like
Shawn
Shawn
Michaels.
Michaels.
Yes, that could happen as well,
And
too.
costs, and then he's got basically almost like a new version of the Straight Edge Society,
Sure.
except they're Planeteers for
course.
Captain Planet Daniel Bryan.
Makes sense. And Daniel Bryan, in reality, is actually rather close with Luke Harper as well. So I could see that actually occurring.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that makes sense. So, yes, the Elimination Chamber is this coming Sunday. That is February the 17th from Houston, Texas. The Toyota Center is the venue. As always, Kyle, thanks for joining me on the program today.
You're listening to The Signature Spot with Chris Toplack.
Plenty to look forward to over the next couple of months, including ROH's 17th anniversary pay-per-view is taking place on Friday, March the 15th in Las Vegas, Nevada. A third match was announced. Two of the most recent individuals signed to the promotion will be going head-to-head. It's Bandito versus Rush. That will be a high-octane affair. Plus, MLW announced for their show in March, taking place in Chicago, it will now be Tom Lawler versus Low Key in a cage match for the MLW Championship. So as I noted, over the next couple of months, a lot of pro wrestling to look forward to, and I hope you'll be watching the Elimination Chamber this coming Sunday. I'm going in with realistic expectations, hoping it delivers. So until next Thursday, happy trails to you until we meet again.
This concludes another episode of The Signature Spot with Chris Toplack. For new episodes, subscribe on YouTube, Stitcher, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, or iTunes. And don't forget to follow The Signature Spot on Facebook for exclusive clips, polls, and opinions.
She wasn't dead, only left her body for a little while. In spite of the